The first DVD appeared in my mailbox on Thursday, April 11, 2013. I remember it clearly because it was raining that day, one of those miserable, damp spring days that left your shoes slick with mud, which seemed to be everywhere. My mailbox leaked, soaking most of the letters inside, but not the slim, clear DVD case nestled among junk mail and credit card offers. It wasn't in an envelope. There was no postmark, stamp, or address. It must have been placed there. Bold black marker scrawled across the disc read, 1992 ballet recital. My first thought, as naive as ever, was that maybe my mom had left it. Perhaps she'd converted some old footage and wanted to surprise me. How foolish that seems now. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I tossed the soaked mail into the trash and slid the DVD into my MacBook. It was Thursday, April 11, 2013, the day everything changed. The footage started out perfectly normal, just as the title neatly written on the disc had stated. I saw a tiny version of myself, a petite Amanda Schneider in ballet slippers and a flared pink dress, innocently twirling on stage with other 6-year-olds who spun with similar naivety. White lines, common on old, poor-quality VHS tapes, flickered in and out of the performance, evoking a strange sense of nostalgia. I had just picked up my phone to call and thank my mom for the gift when the footage abruptly cut out. In a dark room, a light shone directly onto a woman's face from an unseen source beyond the screen. She was dressed in a ballet leotard, skirt, and shoes, identical to the outfit I wore in the old footage. On her head was a messy, tragically askew ballet bun. Her cheeks were covered in degree burns, and her mascara was running. Her mouth was sealed with a thick piece of duct tape. If not for the burns, I probably wouldn't have recognized her. But I did. And that eye, the half-closed, swollen eye from the burns, I could never forget it. It was Gretchen Hartman, my childhood best friend. "Oh my God," I muttered to myself. How many years had it been? 9, maybe 10 since I'd last seen her. Probably just as long since I'd last thought about her. Tears streamed from Gretchen's eyes, from both the unmarred and the disfigured side. She shook her head repeatedly, looking past the screen towards someone or something. Have you ever seen something so unbelievable, so unexpected, that it looks unreal? Once, when I was a child, I witnessed a horrific accident. It happened right in front of me and I couldn't look away, nor could I do anything to help. This feeling was exactly the same. Gretchen whimpered from behind the duct tape and squeezed her eyes shut. She shook her head more violently, her shoulders tense and helpless, as if bound tightly. I heard my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Suddenly, Gretchen's eyes snapped open as if in agony, and the footage cut out to a black screen, her scream abruptly silenced. I sat there for a long time, numb. Then, white letters, tall and stark against the black like bones on asphalt, appeared on the screen. "Call the police or she will die." The words hung there before me then. Wait for more. And then, it was over. I stared at my MacBook, the video player staring back at me. With trembling hands, I pressed replay. The footage began again from the start. Innocent me in a ballet outfit, Gretchen's burned skin, the askew bun on her head, the duct tape on her mouth, the half-closed, swollen eye, the final warning, "Call the police. She will die." Of all I had seen, that was the most understandable part. Yet, my hand hovered over my iPhone. How did the sender of the DVD know if I would call the police? The answer was simple. They knew where I lived. It was too obvious. The DVD wasn't mailed. It was placed in the mailbox like a grotesque gift. Why me? And why Gretchen, of all people? As I sat there, the MacBook's glow illuminating the dim light of the dreary April day, I realized I was doing something I hadn't done in a long time, thinking about my childhood. And I had good reason not to want to. We tend to avoid what has fangs, and my childhood memories were just that. Dark, shadowy spaces, and within them, lurking, long, sharp fangs. I met Gretchen when I was 6, about 3 months after the ballet recital on that DVD. My dad was in the hospital, choking on his own blood for so long that I couldn't remember much. When he died, my family couldn't afford our little brick house in the suburbs anymore, so just days after the funeral, Mom packed us up and we left. I was young, but I still remember wondering why so fast? Why now? Why did I have to lose my dad and my home and my school and my friends, all in one summer? As an adult, you can put things into perspective. My mom had always been a proud woman. Our family was bled dry financially after Dad's prolonged stay in the ICU, and Mom couldn't take the added shock of foreclosure. But I still think it was a rotten thing to do to a child. We took what Mom hadn't sold and moved into the low-income housing development, what I heard people call the bad neighborhood, a chilling name, laden with heavy capital letters. When the car stopped in front of the house, I saw it. A small, faded yellow house, squat and half the size of our beautiful gingerbread house with its sturdy columns and stained glass front door. The two small windows on either side of the front door looked like eyes and a mouth calling out, "Come in, Amanda. I'm hungry. I want to swallow you whole, just like cancer devoured your dad from the inside." The first day there, I couldn't stop crying. I tried, I really did, but I couldn't, and Mom snapped at me, useless. But I knew she was just sad about Dad, so I went to sit on the cracked concrete steps outside so she could have peace cleaning the kitchen. I rubbed my eyes with the heel of my hand until I saw bursts of light in the darkness. It hurt, but it also felt strangely good, so I kept doing it, even though Mom always told me not to. "My mom says that's bad for your eyes," a voice piped up from behind the fireworks in my head. I stopped and looked up to see another girl about my age, with bright red, frizzy hair and thick pink-rimmed glasses. I remember the color, it looked so strange with her hair. "Why?" I sniffled, trying not to let on that I'd been crying, even though it was obvious. "Is that why your eyes are like that?" The girl shrugged, then answered, "No. One day I woke up and couldn't see Tom and Jerry on TV, so my mom took me to the doctor. He said I have nearsightedness." "Oh," I said, defaulting that it meant she had near vision and accepting it as fact. "What are you crying about?" Gretchen squinted at me. She didn't have the burns or the half-closed eye back then, just lots and lots of freckles. I really didn't want to tell this red-haired, bespectacled girl that my life was effectively over, but somehow I still did. "My dad died," I explained, tears on my cheeks, finally having stopped crying. "He was sick for a long time, and now my mom and I are poor, so we have to live here." An adult might have taken offense, but Gretchen's face lit up. "I'm poor too," she exclaimed happily, clasping her hands together. "Most people around here are, but there aren't many kids, especially girls. We could be friends." I sniffled again, looking at her with the blunt judgment only children possess. After a moment, I came to a conclusion. All my friends were gone. Mom was always angry, and even if Gretchen wasn't the perfect friend, this one would do for now. "Okay," I said, not as enthusiastically as Gretchen probably hoped. Her face fell for a moment, and her eyes behind her thick glasses darkened. Wanting to cheer her up because I already had enough bad moods with Mom, I added, "I have a Lisa Frank friendship bracelet kit inside. Want me to get it?" Gretchen's smile returned, brighter than before. "Yes, yes, yes," she chirped, reminding me of Ducky from the Land Before Time. Ducky was my favorite character, and suddenly I felt better. Better than I had felt in a long time. "Can I call you Ducky?" I asked timidly, unsure if the request was too much for a new friend. She blushed, the red standing out against her freckles, and her pink glasses seemed to glow. She gave me a quick, tight hug. "I've never had a nickname before," she said. "Yes, yes, yes, I'll be your Ducky. Come on, let's make bracelets." And we did. I heeded the DVD's warning and didn't call the police. After a night's sleep, I still wasn't sure what to do. Gretchen and I hadn't spoken in years. I wasn't even friends with her on Facebook, and I had no contact information for her family. I thought about calling my mom but didn't want to involve her. I held my iPhone in my sweaty palm, weighing my options like my grandmother used to fret, fondling a small, smooth stone with a thumb indent. Then I remembered. Wait for more. I ran out to the mailbox, knowing the chain-smoking mailman wouldn't arrive for hours, and sure enough, another slim, clear plastic case lay inside, looking as innocent yet dangerous as a coiled cobra with venom in its fangs. I pulled it out and winced as I read the words scrawled on it, still in the thick block lettering of a marker. 1995 softball game. Damn it, this was only getting worse. 1995 softball game. The black marker words challenged me from the glossy surface of the DVD. I had been staring at it for half an hour, biting my acrylic nails, too afraid to put it in my MacBook, but also unable to throw it away. Whatever was on this DVD was sure to be worse than the last. I had 3 options. 1, throw the DVD away and leave Gretchen to her fate. 2, call the police and potentially be responsible for her death. Or 3, watch the DVD and figure it out from there. I sighed, slid the DVD into my laptop, and held my breath. The footage opened, shaky, focusing on 9-year-old me Amanda Schneider at bat in a sweaty summer baseball game. Scrawny knees, awkward elbows, my favorite old Dodgers hat on my head. I watched myself glance back, hesitantly, at the camera in the stands. "Don't look at me, Mandy. Look at the pitcher." A deep male voice boomed. I covered my face, knowing what was coming, but still watched through my fingers. 9-year-old me looked back at the pitcher, but it was too late. The ball whizzed past without a swing. "Oh, for crying out loud," the voice boomed again. "Shut up," I thought to myself bitterly. Shut up, I'm just a kid." "Strike one," the umpire called. "Focus on the game, Mandy," the man yelled. 9-year-old me's shoulders slumped, but I didn't look back. It was useless, I remember thinking. That pitcher girl was a pro. Rumors were her dad iced her arm every night. The next pitch was a fireball. I swung hard, but the ball still zipped into the catcher's mitt. Strike two. "What's the point of practicing all week, Mandy?" I hated those practices. Slowly, I grew to hate softball, too. The pitcher wound up again, sending another rocket past the plate. I swung, making slight contact with the ball. The catcher caught it effortlessly. "Typical," my stepfather said, lowering the camera just as the footage cut to Gretchen. She was still in that dark room, the harsh light illuminating her pale face, her freckles and burn scars prominent. Askew on her head was a faded blue hat with an L and a emblem. I gasped, realizing it was the very hat from the video, my favorite hat that I thought I'd lost when we moved out of that awful yellow house for good. She was crying, sobbing, her mouth still taped shut. The tape looked new. Her once bright red, frizzy hair was now limp, the color of old rust. Gretchen leaned forward, straining against the ropes that bound her tightly. She looked exhausted. My hat swayed on her head but didn't fall. The next 2 minutes were just her muffled sobs through the duct tape. Then, a black screen. "Trigger any memories yet?" A pause, then, "Figure it out yourself. Wait 4 more, do not call the police. And then, or she will die." I didn't bother watching the video a second time. I had started thinking about the summer of 1995, the summer I told Gretchen about my stepfather and how he was making my life hell. "He yells at me at my games," I said glumly, picking at a loose thread on my blanket. "Lots of parents do that," Gretchen said, flipping through one of my Tiger Beat magazines, stopping to get a better look at a shirtless Mario Lopez. "They do it to encourage you." "Yeah, but he's not like that kind of encouragement. Clay doesn't yell nice things, he yells mean things." I tugged the thread and watched it unravel. "I wonder how I can get out of next week's game." "Like what?" she asked, only half listening, Mario Lopez's abs currently more fascinating than my problems. "He mocks me, says I should be doing better. We practice all week, Gretchen, all damn week, but every time I get to bat, I just freeze." Gretchen put the magazine down and looked at me from behind her thick glasses. She'd gotten new frames, silver ones instead of pink. They suited her better, made her look like a smart librarian, not the annoying kind. "Freeze," I said, trying to pull the loose thread further before it broke. "Like my legs just give out. I don't know how to stand or when to swing, even though I really do. I just feel him up there in the stands with that damn video camera, staring at me." She overlooked my rare use of profanity and set the magazine aside. "I'm sorry, that's awful." "It is," I agreed. I fiddled with the thread for a while longer, then let it go and looked at Gretchen. "I don't understand what my mom sees in him. He's horrible and annoying and not like—" I trailed off, not wanting to say it, but Gretchen knew what I meant to say. "He's nothing like your dad," she said softly, putting her hand on my knee. "From what you've told me, I know that already." I gave a weak smile and placed my hand on hers. "Thanks, Ducky. It's hard to explain, but I knew you'd understand." Gretchen squeezed my knee twice. It was our signal to say that everything would be okay. Then she let go and went back to flipping through Tiger Beat for more cute boys. "Why did your mom marry Clay in the first place?" "I don't know," I mumbled, reaching over her to grab another magazine. "She says he treats her well, but I don't see it. Maybe it's just because he makes money." "Not much, or you wouldn't be stuck here," Gretchen said lightly, but I knew there was an edge to her voice. We'd been best friends for 3 years. I knew when she was getting annoyed. "I'm not stuck here, you goof," I said. "I'm glad to live near you." There was a moment when Gretchen seemed to not be looking at the magazine but through it. Then she said, "One day you won't be." Before I could ask what she meant, Gretchen tossed the magazine aside, swung her freckled legs over the edge of my bed, and hopped off. Come on, let's go make some Jiffy Pop. I'm starving. Clay's out there, I said wearily, knowing he'd already had 2 or 3 beers by now. What's he gonna do? She put her hands on her hips and pouted her lower lip, the way she always did when she was being stubborn. I'll punch his teeth in if he says anything to you. Besides, you're not at bat right now. You're just going to make some popcorn for your best friend in the whole wide world. See if he can mock you for that. That made me laugh. Gretchen always knew how to make me laugh, so we did as she said and made popcorn, and you know what? Clay didn't even look at us once. There were no new clues in the footage to tell me where Gretchen was being held or what I could do beyond my Dodgers hat, and what did that even mean? For all I knew, my mom could have donated it to Goodwill when I went off to college. I had nothing. I couldn't do this alone. After a few hours of deliberation, I picked up my iPhone and typed a text to my best friend, Erin. Can you come over? I need your help with something. Don't tell anyone, it's urgent. I hesitated then, before I could change my mind, hit send. As I stared at my phone, waiting for Erin to reply, I thought about how I quit baseball 2 weeks after that video was shot. Clay had gone ballistic. Mom was the only reason I wasn't forced back for the rest of the summer. I hid in my room and tried to imagine what life would be like if my dad hadn't gotten sick all those years ago. Erin texted back, "Sure thing, sweetie, on my way." "Thanks," I replied. "Can you check my mailbox on your way in?" I rushed to the door, almost slipping on the hardwood floor in my socks. When I opened the door, Erin was standing there. She was holding a new DVD case. "Is this what you're looking for?" she asked, looking confused, holding the case out to me. 1998 school play. "Damn it," I said, and invited her inside. It took me about an hour to explain everything to Erin. Well, not everything, if I'm being honest. I didn't say much about Gretchen, just that she was a friend of mine when I was little. I also didn't go into detail about Clay, just that he was a bad stepfather, then changed the subject. At first, Erin thought I was kidding. She looked at me with that face, waiting for me to break out laughing and say, "Just kidding." But that face faded when I showed her the first DVD. "Geez," Erin breathed, bringing a hand to her mouth. She looked from me to the screen, then back to me. "Yeah," I agreed bleakly. She watched in silence, staring at the video until the final warning appeared on screen. "If you call the police, SHE will die." "You have to do something, Amanda," Erin finally said, her face pale, her skin milky white like spoiled milk. I know, that's why I called you. I'm afraid to call the police, even though it's the only thing I can think of. And there's this." "There's what else?" she repeated, astonished, and watched the second DVD with the same stunned silence as the first. When Clay started his yelling, she glanced at me with sympathetic eyes but didn't know what to say. I'd seen those eyes enough to know exactly what they meant. When the second video ended, Erin held up the DVD she'd taken from the mailbox. "So, that means..." I rubbed my hands over my face, not caring if I smeared my eyeliner. "I'm scared to watch it, Erin." "Me too," she said, but still took the disc out of the case. "But we have to, you know that, right?" "Here, Erin," I said, handing her the disc that read 1998 school play, and I slid it into my MacBook. "Listen, you called me for help, so I'm going to do whatever I can. This time, let's really look for clues." "Clues?" I asked, putting the video player in full screen mode. "Like what?" "I don't know, anything. There might be some detail in here that shows where she is." She paused, then snapped her fingers like a detective in an old noir movie who just had an idea. The last one said, "Figure it out yourself." "I don't know, but they definitely want you to figure something out, right?" "Yeah, that makes sense," I said. "At least, as much sense as anything in this story." I smiled and playfully punched her arm. "That's why I called you. I knew you'd see things from a different angle that I can't." Erin grinned. "Not a better angle, just a different one. Come on, fire this sucker up." I pressed play. I already knew what was coming. I remembered the play I was in back in 1996 very well. That's why I didn't burst out laughing, like Erin did. Don't think she's mean or anything. I would have laughed too if I hadn't known what was coming. The footage at the start showed a small stage set up in the high school cafeteria. Behind the stage, the closed-off kitchen was visible, full of cooking utensils, pots, and pans. This didn't help the forced ambience on stage. On either side were two sparsely decorated Christmas trees, and between them a bizarre array of characters. Teenagers dressed in bright colors, a few even sporting wings. Center stage was a short boy, clearly not yet having hit puberty, dressed in black fur from head to toe. He wore floppy dog ears and a bright red collar. To his left was a Dolly Parton lookalike holding a magic wand. And then there was me, a blue checkered dress, pigtails, sparkly red shoes, and innocent eyes. In a fake cheerful voice, 12-year-old me said loudly, "That's right, Toto to Kansas. Because there's no place like home when you have the Christmas spirit. There's no place like home." "What a joke," I said to Erin, my face burning. "This is Christmas in Oz." "Cute," she comforted. "Stupid is what it is." The cast gathered in an awkward group hug, then straightened up to bow. It was the curtain call, the big finish for a cheap, uninspired play, a patchwork of classic movie quotes mixed with some nonsense about the Christmas spirit. Nonsense indeed. If you hadn't seen this before, you might have missed the moment my genuine smile faltered and almost disappeared as I spotted the video camera in the audience. It was just a fleeting moment, a subtle flicker on my face, but 12-year-old me quickly recovered and continued to bask in the applause with grace. The footage cut to Gretchen, as I had anticipated. She was dressed like Dorothy, like me. Her rust-red hair was tied in terrible pigtails, adorned with small blue ribbons. She wore a cheap blue checkered dress that looked like it came from a Halloween store. If I had to guess, I'm sure she was wearing ruby slippers too, but I couldn't see her feet. Another fresh piece of duct tape covered her mouth. I briefly wondered where Gretchen's glasses had gone. She wasn't wearing them in any of the videos. Did her abductor take them? Was she wearing contacts now? Was this a clue, as Erin had suggested? The video stopped, freezing on Gretchen, staring forlornly at the person behind the camera. I started to panic, thinking the footage might be corrupted, but realized Erin had paused the video. "What are you doing?" I asked urgently. She held up a well-manicured hand. Erin was staring intently at the screen. "Just looking for a moment," she said. "Observing everything. We don't see much, but maybe there's something here." I felt a shiver, wanting just to finish the rest of the footage, but I also leaned forward and looked closely. Just a dark room. A stupid dark room with nothing in it but the light, the chair, and Gretchen. And, of course, the camera. "I don't see," I started to say, then stopped. Behind her, dimly in the shadows, was wallpaper. Yes, it definitely was wallpaper. A dingy yellow with dull brown and green splotches like pea soup. "What?" Erin said, but I waved her to silence. I leaned closer to the screen. As I squinted, the splotches transformed into flowers. Flowers choked by winding leafy tendrils. Maybe they were vines, but they look like weeds, I whispered. And instantly, the sensation of my breakfast rising in my throat sent me stumbling past my office chair and into the bathroom. I barely made it to the sink before my stomach erupted, hot and disgusting. I heard Erin's voice calling my name from the other room, running after me, but the sound seemed to come from far away. I had forgotten. That wallpaper, and now I remembered, but only in pieces. Small, sharp, disjointed fragments. Clay drove me home after the play. My mom had to work, but she'd seen the first half, and that was fine because the play was pretty stupid. "You did good, Mandy," he said, his eyes still on the road. It was the first time he'd said anything kind to me that I could remember. "Thanks," I replied, looking out the window with boredom. I'd changed into my school clothes and put on my parka, but I kept my pigtails because they made me feel pretty, like Judy Garland in the actual Wizard of Oz movie. I traced doodles on the frost-covered car window. "I know I'm hard on you," Clay said, still not looking at me, but his voice was strangely subdued, making me glance at him out of the corner of my eye. "I was mad about you quitting softball because I knew you could do better." I didn't say anything, waiting for him to continue. "But tonight on stage," he whistled softly through his teeth, "you were great, Mandy. Really, you were." Clay paused again, then turned to look at me, offering a rare smile. "You really glowed." My chest felt hot and constricted. I gave a small smile in return. "Thanks, Clay," I said timidly. His kindness was so foreign to me that I didn't know what to do. I kept thinking it would be like when a cat rolls over and exposes its belly for you to pet, then scratches you to shreds. But he didn't say anything else, just drove into a Dairy Queen drive-thru and ordered me a cherry slushie, my favorite. I didn't even know he knew that. When we got home, Clay didn't say anything. He carried the bulky video camera box into the house, and I followed, wondering if it would be too rude to ask if I could rewatch the play footage tonight. I finally decided not to. Christmas break was coming up, and I could watch it then when Mom and Clay were at work. He sat down in his armchair and turned on old episodes of Married with Children, a freshly opened beer in his hand. I poked my head into the living room. "I'm gonna take a shower and go to bed," I said softly, trying not to interrupt his show. "Bye, see you tomorrow, kid," Clay mumbled indistinctly. I hesitated, then added, "Thanks for coming to the play, Clay, that was nice of you." He didn't answer. I took it as a small victory and walked towards the bathroom, locking the door behind me. The girl in the mirror looked at me as if unsure who I was. I wasn't sure who she was either. Mrs. Darst, our director, had done everyone's makeup before the play, and since I was the lead, she'd spent the most time on me. I'd never worn real makeup before, only played with the pretend kits Gretchen and I got for our birthdays. This was real makeup, the kind that ladies on my mom's Cosmopolitan magazines wore. I tilted my head, admiring my long, mascara-laden eyelashes. I pressed my red lips together, just like Dorothy in the movie. The color looked good, but also a little suggestive, as if a mouth shouldn't stand out that much. I suddenly realized how much of my baby fat I'd lost in the past year. As I took off my school clothes, I thought about how I hoped I'd be beautiful when I grew up. I knew Gretchen probably wouldn't, as much as I loved her. She was just all freckles, frizzy red hair, and glasses that made her eyes look tiny. I wished Gretchen would be beautiful too, but children are selfish, and above all, I wished it for myself. If I hadn't been so lost in thought, I might have heard the click of the doorknob, the sound of the lock disengaging, the silent swing of the door inward. "I said you glowed," Clay said softly. I turned, covering my body with my hands, trying to shield my newly budding breasts from his gaze. "Dad, you can't be in here," I screamed. He took another step towards me, closing the door and locking it. I backed up against the wall next to the toilet. There was nowhere left to run. "Dad, you can't be in here," I repeated, my voice weak. A weak voice, but he still advanced, and all I could do was turn and press my face against the tangled floral wallpaper, and in my last moment of innocence, I realized the tendrils wrapping around the flowers weren't vines. They just looked like weeds. Erin was holding my hair as I knelt over the sink, throwing up violently. She spoke soothing words into my ear. I was sweating. I didn't say anything for a long time, but when I did, my mouth full of the bitter taste of vomit, I said, "I know where she is." Erin stared at me, her eyes wide, still holding my hair back. "You know where Gretchen is?" she asked. I nodded and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, feeling the unpleasant, spicy taste still lingering in my mouth. Yes, I do." I turned on the sink faucet, letting cold water run, took a small sip, gargled, and spat it out. "Okay, I know you're going through something, but don't keep me hanging like this," Erin said, her voice full of worry and impatience. I gargled again, spitting out the water before turning to her. "She's at my old house, the one on Turner Street. They're filming in the bathroom." "Is that what you recognized?" she asked. "The wallpaper, yeah?" It was. I had pressed my face into it enough times that I should have recognized it sooner. It was in that very bathroom that Clay had raped me when I was 12, for the first time after the Christmas school play. How could I forget? I was dressed like Dorothy, my pigtails perfectly curled, my adult makeup smeared onto the flowers and vines of the wallpaper. I never wore pigtails again, but that didn't stop him. "Then let's go get her," Erin exclaimed. I didn't answer right away, instead unconsciously biting my acrylic nails. "Amanda, we're going to go get her, right? We need to watch the rest of the video," I said, deciding not to tell her about Clay, about the bathroom, and why I recognized it. "What? Gretchen could be in serious danger. We need to rescue her now. You know where she is, so let's go." Erin pointed emphatically towards the door, tense. "You said it yourself," I replied, moving away from the sink and towards the dining room where my MacBook waited on the table. "There's something they want us to figure out. I have one piece, but it's not enough. We need to watch the rest of the video." Erin looked at me as if I were insane, then sighed, throwing her hands up in the air in surrender. Okay, but after this, we have to go immediately." We sat back down around the screen. I wasn't sure I could watch any more without getting sick again, especially now that I knew where these videos were being filmed. But I pressed play. Gretchen moved abruptly, as if coming back to life, her forlorn gaze still fixed on the person behind the camera. She shook her head once, weakly, her damaged eye drooping, the burns stark in the cruel light. Gretchen's pupils darted back and forth as if her captor was pacing. Then the screen cut to black again. "Your clothes," a pause then, "don't give up." Then one more, and the video ended. "One more what?" Aaron asked, confused. "Another DVD," I said, swallowing the knot in my stomach. "We can't do anything until it arrives." "Amanda, this is insane." Aaron rewound the video, found Gretchen's face, paused it, and pointed an accusing finger at the screen. "Your friend is in serious danger. If you really think we can't call the police, but you know where she is, what if this is a trap? What if they're just waiting until you get there after waiting for the last DVD if it even exists? Gretchen could be dead." "That's not the game they're playing," I said softly. Something in me couldn't deny their madness. There was a method. I was meant to remember something. I was meant to learn something. Aaron wouldn't understand. She wasn't there to witness it. A tense silence stretched between us before I finally said, 24 hours, okay? If I don't get anything in 24 hours, I'll go to that house." 24 hours? Aaron covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed, then looked back at me. "Amanda, this isn't a Fox drama with Kiefer Sutherland in it. It's not going to be wrapped up neatly and nicely by the end of the show. This is a real person, someone you used to know and care about, and she might die. What the hell am I supposed to?" "Aaron," I snapped back, replaying the video. "It said to wait for one more. If I show up there before seeing it, they might kill her right away or kill me too. There's something here, something I haven't figured out. I need to find it, and it's on that last DVD." Another moment of silence. "What did you remember, Amanda?" she asked softly. "You saw something so horrible it made you throw up. Was it about that?" I didn't answer. She nodded. "Right, it was about that, and you can't tell me." "I'm sorry," I said, but didn't really mean it. "I'm your friend, Amanda. That's why I'm here, to get tangled up in this crazy mess because we're friends. If you won't tell me something, I can't." I'd never told anyone. I couldn't start with Aaron. I couldn't endure it. I had endured enough half-hearted, pitying looks just from people who'd met my stepfather, who heard the way he spoke to me. How could I tell someone that he had a key to the bathroom door, the thin metal kind you just slide into the keyhole to open it, that I could never escape that room? But I was never safe in it either, in fact. It was the least safe place for me in the world, that all he had to do was catch me in there when my mom wasn't home. And for the next hour, I had to leave my body to keep my mind sane, that it was so horrible I had unconsciously pushed it out of my mind for the past 14 years. I couldn't. That was the simple answer. Aaron let out a long sigh. "Okay, fine." She pursed her lips, then looked directly into my eyes. "I need to go home. I have to be at work early tomorrow. You have 24 hours to figure things out for yourself. But if by," Aaron glanced at her phone screen, "9 p.m. tomorrow night, I haven't heard from you, I'm calling the police. Deal?" I nodded. It was the best I could do. The DVDs had been arriving pretty quickly, so I figured 24 hours would be enough time. I hoped so, for Gretchen's sake. "So that's it," Aaron repeated, grabbing her purse and shoes. She walked towards the front door, then stopped and turned to me. "Why aren't you and Gretchen friends anymore?" "I don't remember," I said truthfully. Aaron nodded slowly, her lips pressed into a grim line. "That says a lot, Amanda," she said, then left. I didn't sleep well that night. For the most part, I was caught in disjointed nightmares, where I had to relive what had happened in that bathroom, over and over again. Sometimes I was a child. Sometimes I was my adult self. In one particularly horrific dream, I was my 26-year-old self, and oh God, I really enjoyed it. The nightmare transformed into a guilty, lustful dream that made me wake with a start, a scream caught in my throat. I was drenched in sweat and had to run to the bathroom to throw up again. I called in sick to work and sat backward on the sofa, staring out the window at the mailbox all morning. No one came. By midday, I started to feel the effects of sleep deprivation. My eyes drooped shut, my head aching. Before I knew it, I jolted awake, disoriented and confused. I looked at my phone, 2:32 p.m. I only had until 9 p.m. I forced myself off the sofa and went to check the mailbox, and sure enough, the mail hadn't arrived yet. But a thin, clear plastic DVD case had. On it was scrawled, 1999 accident. My stomach clenched. An accident? What accident? I took it inside, put it in my MacBook. I thought about calling Aaron first, but then decided against it and hit play. The opening shot was of a car, Clay's faded blue Camaro, the one he was so proud of. I didn't recognize this footage. The camera zoomed in on the open gas tank, the cap flipped open. A hand reached into the frame, grabbing a dirty rag. A small, pale, freckled hand. Wait. Something was clicking back into memory. Gretchen. Gretchen, I murmured, and at the same moment, the camera spun around to reveal 12-year-old Gretchen, with her metal-rimmed glasses and a bright ski cap on her frizzy red hair. She was grinning, looking proud of herself, pointing the camera at her own face. "We're gonna get him back, Amanda," she said firmly. "We're gonna destroy his car. Boom, blow it up. He can't get away with what he did to you." "Wait," she said. "I'm doing this for you, Amanda." And suddenly, tears welled up in her eyes, tiny through the thick glasses. "Because you're my best friend, that bastard deserves worse. I wish I could blow up the car with him still inside it, but this will have to do." "Wait," she said. "I love you, Amanda." And suddenly, the footage cut to the dark bathroom, the same as the previous DVDs, the same as my nightmares. But this time, oh God, it was Erin. She was wearing the exact same ski cap from the video, her mouth taped shut with duct tape, and she was struggling violently, completely unlike Gretchen's helplessness in the previous DVDs. I had done this. I had put Erin in danger. How could I have been so stupid? It was obvious that whoever was behind this could see Erin coming and going from my house. They delivered the DVDs, and yet I didn't think about whether they were watching my house. I watched Erin struggle for almost a minute before the footage cut to black. Then, remember yet, then, if you've figured IT out, come here. I left my MacBook open, grabbed my keys, and ran to my car. The old house was 20 minutes away. I just hoped I made it in time. I ran 3 red lights on the way to the old house on Turner Street, where I'd grown up. It was a miracle I wasn't pulled over by the police, as I was driving at least 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, but what mattered was that I didn't get caught. Not a single cop the entire way. Lucky me, because from the very first DVD, the rules were clear. Do not call the police. The old neighborhood was just as I remembered it. Small, dirty, and utterly depressing. The low-income housing development seemed to have deteriorated even more since I'd left 10 years ago. My car screeched as I pulled into the driveway of the small, pale yellow house. No other cars were parked outside. A dilapidated "for sale" sign was stuck in the neglected lawn, its colors faded to almost white under the sun. Now that I was here, it suddenly dawned on me that I would actually have to go inside. My stomach churned violently. I would have to go into that house, into that bathroom, where Clay had stolen my innocence, over and over again. I would have to face whoever sent these DVDs. The only comfort I had was knowing it definitely couldn't be Clay. He had died in 2010 of a brain aneurysm, collapsing dead in Home Depot while buying a new power drill. I'd gone to his funeral because he was my stepfather and Mom needed me there. She didn't know what he'd done, and I didn't remember, but the next day, I went back to the cemetery alone. I stood staring at his grave for a long time before gathering all the phlegm in my throat and spitting onto the freshly dug earth. I didn't understand why I did it then, but now I did. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure, and walked inside. The front door was unlocked. Even though it was late afternoon, the sky was overcast and gray. There was no electricity, so the house was dark and every shadow seemed menacing. I resisted the urge to call out, "Hello, is anyone here?" like a stupid girl in a horror movie. I crept towards the bathroom and realized I was wrong. There was still power. A sliver of light shone from beneath the bottom of the door. It made sense. Gretchen and Erin in the videos were both illuminated. It also meant she was in there. I tried the doorknob, it was locked. But since when was a locked bathroom door a problem? I felt along the top edge of the doorframe for the thin metal key, and sure enough, it was still there, exactly where Clay always kept it hidden. When I discovered its hiding place, I'd thrown that key away so many times, but it was no use, for they always reappeared, as if he had a whole stash of them. "Bastard," I muttered. I inserted the key into the hole on the metal doorknob and heard the familiar click as the lock disengaged. Slowly, carefully, I opened the door. Behind a MacBook set up on a few old plastic crates and a strategically placed floodlight was Erin. The ski cap was gone, but she was wearing Gretchen's old metal-rimmed glasses. They made her eyes look like tiny pinpricks. Erin had perfect vision, so I knew she probably couldn't see anything, and I was right. She began to struggle violently in the chair, mistaking me for her abductor. "It's me, Erin, it's Amanda," I whispered, unsure where the abductor was. I moved closer to her and noticed iMovie was open on the MacBook screen. That must be how they made the DVDs. Hearing my voice, Erin stopped, then shook her head violently. She said, but the duct tape over her mouth muffled her voice. I couldn't understand what she was saying. Her wrists were bound behind her with the yellow plastic cord people used to tie things down in moving trucks. The skin underneath was rubbed raw and chafed. "I'm gonna get you out of here," I whispered, but before I could find something to cut the cords, I heard a voice. "Oh, what a good friend," it said. I turned, and for a moment I saw nothing but a silhouette in the doorway, the light from the floodlight too blinding. Then the light went out, and as my eyes adjusted, I saw her. Gretchen. She was dressed normally, just a pale pink t-shirt and jeans, no glasses or duct tape. Her damaged eye drooped, but beneath the disfiguring scars, her face was smiling. In her hand was the unplugged cord of the floodlight. "Gretchen," I said, unable to think of anything else to say. "Oh, so you recognize me?" she said, pouting her lower lip. "I'm surprised, actually. I mean, I've been sending these DVDs for days, but you never showed up, so I started to think you didn't even remember who I was." "Of course I recognize you," I said, stunned. "Really? 'Cause I think I put on a pretty good show, but you still didn't exactly come riding in on a white horse, did you?" Gretchen gestured her head towards Erin, the cord in her hand. "I had to up my game and bring your friend here to force your hand." "I didn't know where you were." I stepped closer to her, wanting to put distance between Gretchen and Erin. Gretchen clucked her tongue, then pulled a small, black pistol from the back pocket of her jeans. "Don't move," she said, pointing the gun at me. "Not one more step. Have you ever had a gun pointed at you? Your stomach goes cold. It's like the whole world collapses and you freefall uncontrollably." But I didn't have time to be afraid, because it was Gretchen. Gretchen, who had sent these DVDs, was not in any danger at all and was clearly losing her mind. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner," I said, trying to keep my voice soft and reassuring. "I didn't recognize the bathroom until yesterday. Then you told me to wait for one more, remember?" "You think I'm gonna believe that?" she scoffed. "This bathroom is your hellish nightmare, Amanda. Come on, don't play with me. I know you better than that." "I'm telling the truth." I kept my eyes on her face, trying not to glance at the gun. "I repressed it, forgot about it, or something. I don't even remember." "Don't remember what happened here." Her face softened slightly, but she still didn't lower the gun. "Do you remember what you did to me, Gretchen?" she asked softly. "Do you remember this?" She touched the burn scars, which erupted near the corner of her drooping eye. "Not until you sent the DVD today," I said, and it was true. Gretchen had stayed over for New Year's Eve 1998. Clay and my mom had to go to some stupid office party, leaving us home alone with buttered popcorn and a few rented movies from Blockbuster. He'd even brazenly said he trusted us because we were big girls now, the bastard, and winked at me as if our secret was something sweet. Maybe that was the only reason I told her. "If I tell you something, do you promise not to tell anyone else?" I asked hesitantly. We were watching one of my favorite movies, but I could barely concentrate. "You can tell me anything," Gretchen replied, squinting at the screen. "You know, I think that Goose is the fat detective from Roger Rabbit." I paused the movie. She glanced at me, about to protest, but then saw me biting my nails. That was the telltale sign whenever I was distressed. That winter, I'd bitten all my nails down to the quick. "What's wrong?" I was silent for a while, my throat trying to hold back the words, but then, suddenly, I burst into tears. Heavy sobs erupted like gunshots. Gretchen wrapped her arms around me, stroking my hair, and before long, I told her everything. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual and realized Gretchen was gone. Clay and my mom were still sleeping off their New Year's celebrations, so I quietly moved around the house to see where she had gone. Her ski cap was missing, and so were her shoes. Confused, I looked out the living room window to see if she was playing outside, and sure enough, she was. She was standing next to Clay's Camaro. She was also holding Clay's video camera, the big, bulky kind that recorded live onto VHS tapes. The camera was pointed at her face. She was saying something to it. I put on a thick coat over my nightgown and hurried outside. If she damaged that camera, I'd be in huge trouble. "Gretchen, what are you doing?" I called from the steps. She looked up, her eyes wide behind her glasses. "Oh no, you weren't supposed to see this yet," she complained. "It was supposed to be a surprise." "What are you doing?" I repeated, hurrying across the cold pavement to meet her in the driveway. Gretchen turned off the camera and carefully placed it on the frozen lawn. "I'm gonna blow up Clay's car," she said, her face lit up. "You're gonna do what?" I looked at the rag in her hand, and for the first time, noticed the gas can at her feet. It was the gas can Clay used to fill the lawnmower. "With this," she said, waving the gas-soaked rag in front of me, "it reeked. I saw it in a movie. You just dip the rag in gas, shove it in the gas tank, light it, and boom." "Gretchen, you're crazy," I said, utterly shocked. I wasn't sure what I'd expected after telling her, but certainly not this. "He deserves it," Gretchen said firmly. "You told me what he did to you, and we're just kids. No one will believe us over him. He'll win. This way, he'll lose something." She paused, thinking, then handed me the rag. "You should do it. You should light it. You have to be the one to do it." "I don't want to," I insisted, trying to give the rag back, but Gretchen wouldn't take it. "You have to. You'll feel better." There was something about the way she said it. I still didn't know exactly what, but I felt an important part of me shatter. "You don't understand, you idiot," I screamed, throwing the rag violently at her. I threw it too hard, and it hit her face, covering one eye. "I won't feel better. I'll never feel better. I'm going to be broken for life, and nothing can change that. And this is a stupid, idiotic idea." Gretchen took the rag off her face and looked at me, her eyes filled with hurt. "I'm doing this for you," Gretchen said, her voice full of confusion. "I don't want you to be anything for me," I screamed, all my anger, fear, and self-loathing pouring out, directed straight at Gretchen. It wasn't fair, but it was happening. "We're only friends because I had to move to this crappy neighborhood, and one day I'm going to go somewhere else, and I'll never think of you again." She looked at me for a long time, as if waiting for me to take back my words, but I didn't. "Okay," Gretchen finally said, her face pale under her freckles. "Okay." She looked down at the rag in her hand, seemingly having made a decision. She pulled one of Clay's lighters from her pocket and flicked it open, intending to light the rag. I guess she meant to throw it at me. "Wait," I screamed, but it was too late. The rag caught fire very quickly, but so did Gretchen. Flames erupted on her skin, right where I'd thrown the rag at her face, burning off most of the left side of her face. She started to scream. I had never heard a sound like it before or since. It didn't take long for her hair to catch fire too, and she just stood there, flailing desperately. I did the only thing I could do when my panicked body obeyed me. I pushed her onto the cold grass in the front yard, face down, and began to frantically beat at her smoldering hair. Everything happened so fast. My mom heard our screams and ran outside. After a moment of stunned disbelief, she rushed back with a wet towel, threw it on Gretchen, and extinguished the flames immediately. Clay followed my mom, putting out the burning rag Gretchen had dropped in the driveway. He looked at the rag, looked at Gretchen, looked at the open gas cap of his car. Then he turned and looked at me. Then he went inside and called the police. "You let them take me away," Gretchen said, right there in the bathroom of my old house. She was still pointing the gun at me, but had lowered it slightly. "I went to the hospital, then they took me to another hospital, a hospital for the insane, and you let them take me away." "I was just a kid," I said weakly. "And what was I?" she roared, raising the gun again. "I was just a kid too, for God's sake. I was just trying to help you, and you could have told them about Clay, but you didn't, Amanda. You let them take me away." I said nothing. What could I say? She was right. "And the worst part is," Gretchen said coldly, "you only visited me twice. Twice in 6 damn years." "Clay wouldn't let me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Right, sure he wouldn't. You just didn't want to go. Admit it. You said what you really thought that day in the driveway. Now say it again. You didn't want to see me because we were never really friends." "That's not true." My throat felt constricted. Hot tears stung my eyes. "I didn't mean what I said. I was just upset and confused. Of course you're my friend, Ducky. You're my best friend." "Don't call me that," she screamed. I flinched but continued. "I visited you the first week you were in the hospital because Clay was at work and I had bus money, but that's all I could do," I explained, trying not to cry. He watched me like a hawk, saying I shouldn't associate with the girl who tried to kill him, and my mom backed him up. There was nothing else I could do. Gretchen was silent. She waited for me to continue. Then, when high school came, I had to get a job to help my family, and I just got caught up in everything. And then it became easier not to think about it anymore, because he stopped. You scared him enough that he knew that you knew, and he stopped. And eventually it was like it never happened, and my voice trailed off helpless. And when you moved away, she asked, the gun still pointed at me. I just wanted to get out of this place, I said weakly. I had to leave this house. Just like you said you would, Gretchen said, her lips pressed into a thin, grim line. I did go, I said. I went to the hospital on my way out of town. But you were so out of it, Gretchen, you didn't even look at me. You don't remember, so I left. You're right. But it wasn't to get away from you. It never was. Gretchen laughed, a short, cold, emotionless sound. Really? You think I'm gonna believe that *T? Please, you know what I think, she said. I think you didn't want to see me again because you couldn't bear to look at what you did. She didn't point at her face, but I knew what she was talking about, the ruined skin and the drooping eye. I wasn't the one who got the gas, Gretchen, I said softly. I'll take responsibility for a lot of this, but let's be fair, you did that. And you know what? You could have killed all of us. That car could have blown up half the neighborhood. Now you sound just like my F***seeking therapist, she said, another cold, cynical laugh escaping her lips. There was a pause. Gretchen looked at me, then at Aaron, then raised the gun higher, aiming it squarely at my face. Why don't I make things fair? Ruin this pretty face with a big bullet hole through your cheek? I froze, not daring to say anything for fear of further enraging her. 14 years gone, she roared. 14 years, more than half my life, and all I got from it was this F***seeking horrible face. Gretchen cocked the gun. I felt my limbs go limp, drained of strength. She paused, then looked over my shoulder at Aaron, and then she did the worst thing ever. She smiled. You can keep her, Gretchen said, then put the barrel of the gun into her mouth and pulled the trigger. It's been 3 years. 3 years since Gretchen sprayed her blood and brains onto the floral and vine-patterned wallpaper in the very room my stepfather used to rape me, but I still see it in my nightmares. Sometimes they're both there, and they both laugh at me. She holds the gun, and Clay does what he used to do. The nightmare always ends the same way. She shoots herself in the head, and I wake up screaming. Aaron and I don't speak anymore, only polite greetings on Facebook or an occasional like on each other's pictures. I guess that's the 21st century way to end a friendship. I try not to think about it, but my therapist says that's not right, that's what made me repress all these memories in the first place. I try to explain to him about avoiding the sharp fangs, but he tells me I have to face them. So this is me, I guess, trying to face them. He also says it's not my fault. None of it. Clay, Gretchen, none of it was my fault. I didn't ask to be raped. I didn't put the lighter in Gretchen's hand, nor did I put the gun in hers. I don't believe him. They found a box of home movies in my old bedroom. I guess my mom left them behind when she and Clay moved out in 2007. Gretchen found them after she was released from the psychiatric hospital. I guess she went straight to the house on Turner Street, and that's how it all started. Now, those films sit in my hallway closet. For some reason, tonight I decided to watch them. All of them. Who knows how many sharp fangs I'll find, how many times I'll be bitten by the barbed thorns of the past, but it's what I have to do. The friendship bracelets, the softball games, the teen magazines, and the flowers choked by vines. I need to relive it all. It's the only way for me to shed my toxic childhood. The only thing I'm truly afraid of, truly terrified of, is what else I'll remember.